Hi there, folks. Welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast. Great to be along with you. Mayor Zohran Mamdani, the communist mayor of New York City. Mission accomplished, we're calling it. He wants to destroy New York. Well, he's at it. He wants to raise property taxes in New York. And not just property taxes on anybody, but property taxes on the middle class. The median income in New York is about $122,000. You know how expensive it is to live in New York right now, between getting around the city, between the cost of everything in that city? You think a family where the breadwinner makes $122,000 a year can afford a 9.5% increase in property taxes? I don't think so. So Mamdani offers up these choices, both of them false choices. Either raise taxes by 9.5% or have Albany, the state of New York, raise income and business taxes and send it down to New York City. Now, why should everybody in the state pay for New York City's gross negligence? They shouldn't. This is what happens when you get a communist at the helm of a city like New York City or a city like Mayberry. You put a communist in charge, you're going to bankrupt that city. And I'm going to tell you the little secret here that none of the media is reporting on, okay? None of them. There is a secret as to what Mamdani did to create this $5.4 billion gap in the budget, this shortfall. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Before we do, though, folks, I want to tell you about my friends over at VRAinsider.com. That's VRAinsider.com. I want you to get ready to crush the market, okay? Crush the market by going to VRAinsider.com. You get a free 2-week trial. Their 10-bagger system, 10 stocks, ETFs that they pick, is going to set your portfolio on a path to success. It's not a day trading system. You get alerts every day, but this is about long-term growth. And in fact, last year, they did 35% returns. The year before, 50% returns. They've beaten the market 20 out of the last 22 years. It is amazing. I love the guys behind it. I have the utmost faith in them. In fact, I've taken some of my portfolio, and I'm now following the VRA system. VRAinsider.com. Again, you get a free 2-week trial, okay? Go sign up. You have nothing to lose. Sign up for the 2-week trial. And then you know what? Tell me what you think. And I'll pass your thoughts along. I promise you. VRAinsider.com. That's VRAinsider.com. Go get that 2-week trial of his daily newsletter. You're going to love it. All right, with that, folks, let's get the show started.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, I told you there is a little secret of what Mamdani did to create a $5.4 billion budget shortfall in this latest budget that he has coming up. I believe the budget shortfall will not be $5.4 billion. It will be much larger than that. My assessment is it may go to $10 billion in a shortfall. Now, here's what he did. Last budget was $118 billion. That's an awful lot of money, folks. The budget Mamdani has come up with is $127 billion. So you've got a $9 billion increase to a $5.4 billion shortfall. We have inflation that's in check. Why the $9 billion increase? Why don't you just keep spending the same? I understand all governments, even governments run by Republicans, have this inability to just freeze spending. But to go up $9 billion from 118 to 127 is a dereliction of duty. It's gross negligence, and it's going to cost New Yorkers. Cut something back, Mamdani, but they can't cut anything back. So instead, you get him coming out and saying things like this.
At the heart of this path is a property tax increase. This would effectively be a tax on working and middle-class New Yorkers who have a median income of $122,000. The second path also requires us to raid our reserves. It would mean withdrawing $980 million from our city's rainy day fund in fiscal year 2026.
Now, wait a second. You're going to raid the rainy day fund. That's in case of emergency. You don't have an emergency. You raise spending from 118 billion to 127 billion. That's not an emergency. That's like a family saying, oh, we don't have enough money coming in because we're going on vacation next month. Hey, how about you don't go on vacation? I know that sucks, but sometimes you got to cut where you got to cut.
And $229 million from the Retiree Health Benefit Trust in fiscal year 2027. These are steps that have been taken before, but only in moments of extraordinary external crisis. Mayor Bloomberg's response to the 2008 financial collapse, and Mayor de Blasio's response to the enormous revenue shortfall caused by the pandemic. We do not want to have to turn to such drastic measures to balance our budget.
So what does he want? He wants more money from Albany, from New York. This is the problem with ineptitude when it comes to communism, socialism, and these leftists. This is what you get. It is mission accomplished. I told you they would destroy New York. What will happen now will be a mass exodus from New York. Why would you stay there? Florida, Tennessee, Texas will be the big winners here. The real estate markets in those states are about ready to boom again. If you're a real estate agent in Southern Florida, I'll tell you what, get ready to start banking cash. If you're a real estate agent in Texas, get ready to start banking cash. Now, again, the budget goes from 118 to 127. They've got a $5.4 billion shortfall. You could still raise the spending by $4 to $5 billion. And you'd still not have a shortfall, not have to tax people. I think what he wants is to tax people. He wants to tax you.
What we would rather do is ensure that they remain as they are so that the city can be on firm financial footing. However, in order to get to this point of closing the gap on both this fiscal year and the next fiscal year, we are forced to raid the rainy day fund, the Retiree Health Benefits Trust Reserve, and to increase property taxes across these other years.
Now, does anybody out there think this is a good idea? Is it a sound financial move to increase spending when you don't have the money coming in? And then to go to your residents and say, hey, we're going to mandate that you pay more. And now you're mandating, look, I'm not one to go tax the rich. I'm not one to go tax the poor or the middle class. You know me, I don't like taxes. But if you're going to tax people, you got to tax people fairly and across the board. Now, it's interesting. He's going after the middle class here. That's the last group you want to go after because they are literally hammered. And I would say the second to last group you want to go after is the rich because they're the ones that are job creating. You don't want to stifle that. And then, of course, the poor can't afford it. Oh, wait a second. What did I just come up with? Don't increase taxes. It's a bad move all the way around. There's not one group of people where it's beneficial to tax them. Not one. So government has to learn how to spend less money. I'll play one more clip of Mamdani.
For those who have watched budget after budget, it is tempting to assume that we are engaging in the same dance as our predecessors. Let me assure you, nothing about this is typical. That's why our solutions won't be either. There are two paths to bridge this gap. The first is the most sustainable and the fairest path. This is the path of ending the drain on our city and raising taxes on the richest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. The onus for resolving this crisis should not be placed on the backs of working and middle-class New Yorkers.
Oh, but wait for it. So here he goes with his tax the rich. Let's hammer them. And you'll get companies like J.P. Morgan and all these others that move to Texas. They have more employees now in Texas than they do in New York. That's crazy to me. I love it, but it's crazy to me. The greatest financial city in the world, New York City, is now no longer. Now, I believe that Texas will be the financial center of the universe, by the way. Not London, not Hong Kong, not New York, but Texas. You watch. You can't afford to stay in New York. So here he is saying, all right, let's go hit the rich. And what's the second path?
If we do not fix this structural imbalance and do not heed the calls of New Yorkers to raise taxes on the wealthy, this crisis will not disappear. It will simply return, year after year, forcing harder and harsher choices each time. And if we do not go down the first path, the city will be forced down a second, more harmful path. Faced with no other choice, the city would have to exercise the only revenue lever fully within our own control. We would have to raise property taxes.
Bingo. And that's what hammers the middle class. Again, I'm going to tell you, you don't want to tax the wealthy. They're the job creators. You don't want to tax the middle class. They're already hammered, man. And if you're a Democrat and you live in New York and you voted for this ass clown, are you not saying to yourself, I made a huge mistake? But again, we warned you over and over and over again. We warned you. So we'll see what happens in New York. Not good, but you wait. The mass exodus is in my mind, most certainly coming. All right, real quick. My friends over at Patriot Mobile, patriotmobile.com/Grant. 972-PATRIOT is the number to call. A portion of the money you pay them for your cell phone service will go to conservative activism. All right? Conservative activism. They've already were telling me yesterday about donating to a group that is out there recruiting clergy members to get their flock engaged in the midterm elections. How important is that? This is a national effort to get them involved. So do you want to be paying a cell phone company that's doing the exact opposite and funding the woke left? Or would you like to pay your cell phone company, Patriot Mobile, and know you're moving America in the right direction? It is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider, 100% U.S.-based customer service, so somebody speaks English when you call them. You get to choose what 3 networks you want to be on, of which one. So you're not going to sacrifice service, and I promise you're going to save money on this too. PatriotMobile.com/Grant. Use the promo code GRANT for a free month. They'll make you a deal to switch over. They got a performance guarantee. You can keep your phone, upgrade your phone, get a new phone, whatever you need to do. The folks at Patriot Mobile will take care of you. PatriotMobile.com/Grant, 972-PATRIOT. Use that promo code GRANT. And, of course, tell them that Grant Stinchfield sent you. All right. Now, in the realm of New York communists, who can forget AOC? Well, she goes to Munich, Germany, and she makes a total fool of herself. President Trump was asked about her on Air Force One.
By the way, I watched AOC answering questions in Munich. This was not a good look for the United States. I watched Gavin Newsom answering questions in Munich, and this was a bad look for our country. These two people are incompetent. And at least Hillary's competent. She's just Trump deranged.
So he admits that Hillary's competent. She's just Trump deranged. You know, in some respects, there's no doubt in my mind that Hillary Clinton is smart. But she is Trump deranged, and she realized, I think wrongly, that if she goes down this ultra-leftist path, that somehow that's going to recruit her votes and this climate change nonsense. Her husband wasn't for any of this stuff back when he was president. Shit, man. Bill Clinton was probably Mitch McConnell today when he was president. But she goes totally radical left. But it's funny, he says she's not incompetent, the former Secretary of State. AOC certainly is, though, Mr. President.
She was so deranged. She is an angry woman. But I watched the other two speaking and answering basic questions. Look, Gavin has destroyed California. And AOC, I never heard her speak very much. And they started answering questions. She had no idea what was happening. She had no idea how to answer, very important questions concerning the world. But she can't answer questions concerning New York City either, because New York City is got some problems.
To say the least, Mr. President, to say the least. So New York City's got some problems, maybe because they got Mayor Mamdani at the helm, and you got a representative like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as a member of Congress. She couldn't answer questions. I mean, she was asked about what do you do if China invades Taiwan? All of these things. I mean, this was how she answered that question.
This is such a, I think that this is of course a very long-standing
longstanding what, AOC? What?
This is such a, I think that this is this is, of course, a very longstanding.
She's awful. She's awful. You know who even admitted she was awful? A guy I don't have a lot of respect for. He's on News Nation now, this Chris Cuomo. He's got a podcast too. You remember him from CNN. His dad was a high-profile Democrat, Mario Cuomo. And then, of course, his brother was governor, Andrew Cuomo of New York. He talked about AOC, and he wasn't kind. Now, Chris Cuomo, he goes to News Nation. They want him kind of more balanced, so he comes back. But you can tell this guy's lost. He is a leftist. There's no doubt about it in my mind. He pretends. He's just a high-powered gun, but he does realize that AOC is dumb.
How do you keep them from having the nuke? Impeach Trump is the opposite of having a better idea.
This is what AOC said. How do you keep Iran from getting a nuke? Impeach Trump.
You're killing your party. You're killing your party. And look, I hope it works out for you. I hope you guys splinter off and become, whatever you really are. Because you're not a capitalist and you're not a Democrat. And, you could say, well, what do you know? I was raised by a real one. I was raised by a real one. Go ahead and criticize Mario Cuomo. What's going to be your biggest insult? That he spawned me and Andrew? Is that going to be the best you have? Because you ain't shit compared to him. Not in terms of intelligence, not in terms of success, not in terms of pedigree, not in terms of philosophy, not in terms of mission, not in terms of eloquence, not in terms of charisma, not in terms of anything. Certainly not electability.
I will say this. I grew up in New York. Mario Cuomo was the governor of New York when I was a kid. And he was charismatic, Mario Cuomo. There's no doubt about it. And he was not a crazy leftist like his like his sons have become. But this has been the lurch to the left from the Democrat Party. They're not the Democrats of Mario Cuomo anymore. And Chris Cuomo knows that.
You are killing your party because you are not a real one. Because you're doing what's good for you in a vacuum with your little social media following. You're no different than a pod bro. And you're killing your party. And Democrats better wake the fuck up and realize that you're better than this. Be with the 80, not the 20. Okay?
It's probably good advice for Democrats, sadly. Be with the 80%, not the 20. The 20% being somehow transgender mania, and let's read gay marriage books to 3-year-olds, and all of the other wacky craziness that the Democrats seem to be gunning for. So he's probably right there. But again, that's from a Democrat telling AOC and the Democrats to distance themselves from her. There's so much talk about the midterms that the Republicans are going to get crushed. And it is like, 73% of the time the incumbent party gets crushed in the midterms. If we get crushed, I'm going to really wonder about this country because, again, I'll ask the question that I ask you over and over and over again is what more do you want? What more do you want? We've got a sense of calm on the world stage. We've got lower inflation. We've got gas prices down. We've got 401ks that are bursting at the seams now. We've got mass deportation, which is what we voted for. I know half the country doesn't like that, but actually, that's not true. Half the country probably wants some form of immigration, and they don't understand illegal immigration is not it. I think maybe 20% of the country do not like the mass deportations. That gets back to the 80-20 deal. But the point is, our cities and streets are safer now than ever before because of President Trump. What more do you want? So if Republicans lose, it's going to tell me that Americans, by and large, are dumb. Let's see, because I have great faith in Americans that they're not dumb. That to use a leftist term, the collective of this country is smarter than the 20%. Much smarter. So I don't know if we get trounced in the midterms. I don't think so. I don't like making predictions because I don't feel as good about this one as I did that President Trump was going to win. I was making that prediction for a long time. I knew it. I knew it every election. But I don't know this one about the midterms. I feel it, but I don't know it, if that makes sense. All right, so you've got that. Now, the other side to liberal leadership that is awful is what happened in Maryland and this sewage spill. Did you hear about this? So the Potomac now has hundreds of thousands of gallons of sewage being spilled into, and Democrat leaders appear not to be able to do anything about it. Yes, this is a story of an environmental catastrophe that the Democrats aren't even talking about. Why? Because it's due to their failures. This is a real eco disaster, okay? A real one, not a climate change one, not an environment one, but an eco disaster of raw sewage being poured into the Potomac River, all because of Democrat ineptitude.
Stench down here is so revolting. You can smell it in your car when you drive over the 495 bridge, and when you're actually down here, you can taste it. Sunday night, about 600,000 gallons of raw sewage was pumped back into the Potomac River. Let me back up and show you how this happened. As we've been telling you, DC Water has put in this system of above ground generators and pumps that have been pumping the raw sewage out of the broken pipe and using these big black pipes to pump it into the C&O Canal, where it flows downstream and then is pumped back into that underground interceptor. And that has been working pretty well for the past week or more. But Sunday night, DC Water officials tell us that because of a massive clog caused by wipes that people have been flushing down their toilets, clogged two of these pumps, putting them out of commission. At the same time, this is right about the time of the Super Bowl, they experienced a heavy flow of sewage coming through the interceptor that they could not keep up with, and there was an overflow. That overflow, they estimate again, about 600,000 gallons of raw sewage pumped back into the Potomac River. What we also know that DC Water is acknowledging that in recent days they had put out some of their own testing data on the level of bacteria and E. coli in the river. Turns out they had their numbers wrong. They're blaming human error, but it was way off. The good news is things are somewhat...
Hold on. You got to look at the numbers that were off here. Hold on. Look at this. Reported 2,420, whatever the unit is. The actual was 242,000. They basically dropped 2 zeros. That's what happened. It was a typo, and they dropped 2 zeros. That is the definition of ineptitude. That's the definition of incompetence. So, E. coli, no big deal. We're only at 2,400 parts per whatever, when it's actually 242,000. Doesn't look good, man. Doesn't look good at all.
But it was way off. The good news is things are somewhat back to normal here, and the pumps are once again working well enough to keep the vast majority of this raw sewage from making its way into the Potomac River.
Oh, wait a second. The vast majority? We don't want any sewage in the Potomac River. Is anyone surprised this happened in the District of Columbia? I'm not. I'm not at all. Here's how the news reports it.
Truly is. They say it could take up to 10 months to fully repair that broken pipe. Now, this comes as the district issues its strongest warning yet to stay out of the Potomac River. News 4's Mark Seagraves explains.
This is a briefing on the Potomac interceptor rupture that we all know has caused this major ecological disaster. I've seen it characterized as one of the major ecological disasters in the eastern part of the United States. It is not only polluting the Potomac, but it is also threatening the Chesapeake Bay. And
So one of the major ecological disasters, and I'll ask you this. I'm shocked nobody said climate change is responsible for this. Climate change swelled the steel pipes and they burst because it was so unusually warm during the winter months. Literally. Well, if we weren't working so hard on solar power, we would have been more prepared. How are they not blaming climate change for all of this? Well, President Trump Truth Socialed this.
If you look at the river, it's pretty clear and blue, but this stretch right here is brown and gray, and you can see little shreds of toilet paper. It reeks of sewage. So I've been a riverkeeper now for 25 years. And I've dealt with what I thought were pretty big sewage spills of 15, 20 million gallons, but this is dumping about 60 million gallons a day for the last 5 days into the Potomac River. And if you do...
All right, you want to hear what Trump writes here? I don't know if you can see it on your screen. It actually is, it's, let me see, I'm experimenting here. It's pretty small here, but he writes, now I'm not going to be able to put myself up there. You don't need to see me anyway. He writes, there is a massive ecological disaster unfolding in the Potomac River as a result of the gross mismanagement of local Democrat leaders, particularly Governor Wes Moore of Maryland. A sewer line breach in Maryland has caused millions of gallons of raw sewage to be dumped directly into the Potomac River, a result of incompetent local and state management of essential waste management systems. This is the same governor who cannot rebuild a bridge. It is clear local authorities cannot adequately handle this calamity. Therefore, I am directing federal authorities to immediately provide all necessary management, direction, and coordination to protect the Potomac, the water supply in the capital region, and our treasured natural resources in the nation's capital city. While state and local authorities have failed to request needed emergency help, I cannot allow incompetent local leadership to turn the river in the heart of Washington into a disaster zone. As we saw in the Palisades, the Democrat war on merit has real consequences. The federal government has no choice but to step in. FEMA, which is currently being defunded by the Democrats, will play a key role in coordinating the response. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So think about this. The Schumer shutdown, okay, now has a real problem because FEMA is not operating at full capacity, and we need them here for the Potomac River. Now, Governor Wes Moore did have a response to all of this. Apparently now he wants the help.
Wes Moore responding, saying, Mr. President, this bill is basically contained, so could you approve the FEMA funding to help Western Maryland rebuild after the historic floods last year? Secretary Noem, tagging you here, too, for good measure. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Hardy, har. Thank you for your attention to this matter, copying President Trump. What you're telling me is Wes Moore is joking now about natural disasters and the floods from earlier in the year, and he wants FEMA money for this. Meanwhile, FEMA shut down because of the Schumer shutdown. Why don't you talk to Chuck Schumer, Wes Moore, and stop with the jokes? Thank you for the attention to this matter.
You know, the fact that we have asks and counters on X is a new generation of politics.
Welcome to Trump politics, right? This is how it works. This is such an I told you so moment for Republicans and for the presidents. For a couple of weeks now, there's been a pretty negative narrative around the Department of Homeland Security. There's a story out almost every other day about what's going on internally. This is a moment where the president can say, you guys are the ones that are not funding the Department of Homeland Security, also FEMA, and now you want help from the very agency that you're not willing to fund. So it will be interesting how this plays into the funding fight when Democrats and Republicans come back to the Hill next week. The leverage, really, it felt like the Democrats had most of, but this could actually change the game.
And think about that. When the Democrats come back, we have a shutdown right now, albeit for 3-4% of the government, DHS. But they're not there working on it. And the media is not talking. That's Fox News. The media is not talking about this spill into the Potomac because they don't want you to see Democrat ineptitude firsthand. And that's exactly what you see in the sewage line that is being dumped into the Potomac River. It's very sad, quite frankly. It really, really is. Hey, let me tell you about my folks over at the Wellness Company. You know how much I love this company. Folks, February is Cancer Month, National Cancer Prevention Month. If you want to prevent cancer, I want you to try this product they have called Shield. Go to twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. It's a daily supplement that will help you prevent cancer. That's what it looks like the research is showing here. Everything in it is approved by Dr. Kelly Victory. This is a woman who's a fabulous conservative, a great defender of freedom and medical truth, by the way. And she had breast cancer, and she came up with this formulation for Shield to help prevent cancer, and it's getting huge reviews. So I would argue go to twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. Don't forget the emergency medical kits. Look, this is very, very important. I just had a friend, strep throat. They had one of these kits. They popped amoxicillin. Boom, strep throat gone. You got it in the house. You don't need to go to a doc in the box. So twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. And as always, Ultimate Spike Detox. Get that spike protein out of your system. That may be the best thing you can do to make sure that you remain healthy. That spike protein's brutal, whether you had COVID or whether you got it from the vaccine. Ultimate Spike Detox is the way to go on that, and it's going to make you feel better. The energy you're going to get after that is pretty cool. twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right. J.D. Vance went and gave a hell of a speech. Well, no. Excuse me. It's not a speech. He went on with Martha McCallum on Fox News. It was a one-on-one with J.D. Vance, and I found it very interesting, so I thought I'd play some clips.
Rubio, Secretary of State, was there, gave a speech that had a lot of similar underpinnings to it, but they were applauding, and they thought it was great. So what happened with that? Why is that the outcome?
Well, I heard somebody say that I was the bad cop so that Marco could be a good cop. Okay. I mean, he gave a great speech, but he drove home, I think, a very important point that the Europeans have largely forgotten, or at least had largely forgotten over the past year, is that the reason why the president or Marco or me talk about borders, the reason why we talk about them spending more on their own security, the reason that we talk about them more becoming a vibrant economy again, is that we want Europe to thrive and we want Europe to succeed. The problem that we have with Europe is not that we don't like Europe, even though you hear that from the European press. It's not that we don't respect our allies. It's that they are doing a lot of things to sabotage themselves. We would like that to stop. We would like them to be an ally in the true sense of the word.
Good luck with that. Europeans are so far gone down the liberal train. You're going to have a hard time getting them on board with the Trump agenda. It's not even Make America Great Again. I would love for them to get on the Make Europe Great Again agenda. And it starts with sovereignty. They don't believe in sovereignty in Europe. So this is going to be very, very problem. They want the globalists to control everything. They see their countries being destroyed, mostly by Muslims, by the way, that have infiltrated through an open border system. But they don't seem to care, which is what's so scary. And crime is out of control in cities like London and Paris and these great European cities. I wouldn't go visit Europe today. I wouldn't. Italy is the only difference. I like what they're doing in Italy. Slowly, small baby steps. I wouldn't mind going to Italy.
Well, I think the president will do what he thinks is in the best interest.
This is about Iran.
Just the American people. I think he's shown very clearly that he is not Barack Obama. He takes a much different approach to America's national security, and he's much more willing to act aggressively to defend America's national security. But the president of the United States is very much trying to find a solution here, whether it's through diplomatic options or through another option that means that the Iranians cannot have a nuclear weapon. That has always been the main focus. If you go back to the campaign that he ran in 2015, the Republican primary campaign that he won, he said, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I think it's very important for the American people to appreciate it's one of the most hostile and also one of the most irrational regimes in the world. You can't have people like that have the most dangerous weapon known to man. It would be awful for our security. It would be awful for the future of our children. That is the goal of the President of the United States, and he's got a lot of options and a lot of tools to make sure that doesn't happen.
All right, so think about Iran and how delusional this country is. Now, a lot of it is propaganda for the Iranian people. But the Ayatollah comes out, the supreme leader, and says Iran is going to sink U.S. warships. Now, I'm here to tell you, Iran is not going to sink any U.S. warships. And that would be the last warship Iran ever sunk if they tried a maneuver like that on us. That would be a huge mistake. They know that. But he speaks like this with this rhetoric to, I guess, somehow make the people of Iran that are totally oppressed feel proud when actually they're trying to rise up against leadership there. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They get the shit bombed out of them and their nuclear facilities just basically destroyed. They witness us going into Venezuela and taking Maduro. And you're still going to talk crap to the United States of America after witnessing what we can do in the dark of night across the globe? Really, really, delusional, reckless, dangerous for them, whatever you want to call it. But it does tell you who's at the helm in Iran, people that are not very smart.
I worry about invasions of privacy.
This is about AI. I should have set this up better.
A lot about political bias. If you go back to 2020, 2021, Google search was so biased in a left-wing direction that I think it actually changed America's political system. I don't want that to happen with artificial intelligence. So there are a lot of things we are worried about.
So a lot of things they're worried about AI. A lot of things I'm worried about AI. One, it's not always right. So you can't use it like Google, where then you go see the article and you read the article and it'll tell you things, but it'll often tell you what you want to hear. So you constantly have to fact check it. Now, where AI works well for me is I can take an article and I can give it the article and I can say bullet point it for me. So I can use it on the podcast as the bullet points to go through. That's helpful. But if you ask it to do things, it's not always right. And so I agree, these concerns of AI, and then with the kids and everything that's happening, they're friends with AI, and the AI is telling them to kill themselves. Oh, my gosh. It's not a good situation. So he was asked also about affordability, and I know I'm busting through these. I've got to cut this podcast short a little bit early today. I've got a very important luncheon that I have to go to regarding the oil and gas industry in Texas. But he's talking about affordability, especially leading up to the midterms. I want you to listen to what he says. He knows, and I think Republicans need to know, this idea of making things affordable is very, very important. President Trump's working at it.
Not to have kids or delaying kids. I mean, look, what I would say is it's never a good time in the sense that it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be easy. I know as the father of three with a fourth on the way, there are always going to be challenges. But I don't know anybody who chose to have another kid who regretted it. Even sometimes if it was financially difficult, it often is. I think babies are a good thing. And I think if we have more of them in this country, the country will be much better.
Well, thanks for doing your part.
We're doing.
Look, he's doing his part because they got another baby on the way. I don't know anybody that regretted having a child. I wasn't so hell-bent on having a kid when I was married, and we did. And, oh, my gosh, thank the Lord Jesus that I have the son that I have. He's not only a fabulous kid that I'm so proud of, that I've gotten to watch grow up and experience things that are new to him for the first time, and I get to experience that again through his eyes. What an amazing experience. And then to have a role in raising this human being and seeing what they flourish into, blossom into, really is amazing. So I think having kids is great. I would say this, though. It is probably smarter to wait. And now people will tell you it's never the right time to have kids. You never have as much money as you think you need. But to me, I always made enough money. And I never had real success until I was 40, like real success, where I was making what people would think is very good money, till I was 40. And that's around when I had, in fact, it's exactly when I had my son. Maybe that's because God provides in certain ways, but it wasn't that expensive, the kid. I mean, it wasn't. It's not like it busted the bank on me. I get the kids can get expensive. He wasn't in cheer or dance, thank God, because I understand those things are very expensive. Or equestrian sports, very expensive. He played football and baseball. Big deal. I got to buy him a bat. Are they expensive? Yeah, $300 for a bat doesn't make a lot of sense, but it wasn't outrageously expensive.
Not to have kids or...
what am I doing here? This is the last one. He was talking about affordability in homes, and this is very important, folks, because this is what I've been saying about how you get homes more affordable. It's not bringing down the price of homes. Can you imagine if you bring down the price of homes, all of the equity that would be lost for people who bought those homes? You do not want to bring the price of homes down. This goes for California, too. Bring the interest rates down.
Do to make housing more affordable is to actually lower interest rates. Right now, because of the Federal Reserve, we have interest rates that are still way too high, even though inflation has come down. Frankly, it's come down faster than people thought it would under the Trump administration, and yet the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates stubbornly high. That means if you go and apply for a mortgage, you're paying much more for that mortgage than you should. So we're going to make it easier to build and create homes. We're going to make it easier for Americans rather than Wall Street to buy those homes, but we also need to get interest rates lower. That's a critical part of the president's agenda.
What do you say to people who say, well, I'm not sure I should have a third or a fourth child because it's too expensive?
Well, one, I hear them, and I know a lot of young American...
All right, that gets back into the soundbite we already played for you. Now, lowering interest rates brings the cost of the home down because your payment is lower. Nobody's buying homes for cash unless you're the ultra wealthy. So how do you bring the payment down? You could lower the cost of the home, but again, that will eat into the equity of people selling the home. We don't want that to happen. I want everybody to make money. Go buy a bigger home. You lower the cost of the home by doing things. You bring down the cost of the mortgage, which is by lowering the interest rates. If you can figure out a way to bring down the cost of insurance, which is skyrocketing now, that would help. And you bring down property taxes. People forget property taxes play a large role in how much of a home you can afford. My home right now, to give you an example, in Dallas, my property tax bill is more than my mortgage payment every month. Now, I'm blessed because I have a lot of equity in my home, so the mortgage payment is lower, but I shouldn't be paying more in property tax than I am in my mortgage. That's ridiculous. I mean, I'll be flat out honest with you. My house right now is probably worth about, I don't know, maybe $1.7 million. Okay, right in the heart of Dallas. Not a fancy neighborhood, but that shows you the price of real estate. But I'm blessed. I bought it for about $850,000. So I've made a lot of money on this house. My mortgage is $450,000. The payment on that mortgage for $450,000 mortgage, that's what most people's homes cost, maybe less, is less than the property tax bill. $23,000 a year I pay in property taxes for this house, and I get shit for it. Sometimes they don't pick up the trash in Dallas. The school districts suck. My kid goes to it. You've got to make sure you're on them, which is fine. I mean, that's a parent's duty, but I'm not getting great schools. The only thing I get is I'm right in the middle of everything, and I'm in a great city. I love Dallas. I really do. And I'm close to great restaurants. But man, oh man, I pay for it. That's for sure. So that's how you bring affordability down. It starts with interest rates. The Fed ought to get on board with that. All right, folks, that is going to do it for us. I so appreciate you watching today. Stinchfield's Army Rolls, thanks to all of you. Don't forget my website, GrantStinchfield.com. Subscribe, like, share, everything. And you can find every place where I'm at right at GrantStinchfield.com. And you can even contact me there. Those emails from the website go right to me if you want to contact me. Stinchfield's Army rolls, folks. We'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, everybody.